What is your opinion on the statement, "Money can't buy happiness"? Story 1. Perhaps not as a direct exchange, but it can definitely buy security, peace of mind, and the chance to pursue things that bring happiness. The phrase strikes me as a way for out-of-touch people to try to offer comfort without recognizing the privileges they have that allow for them to feel happy. Answer: it's most useful for yourself, emo. If you have to choose between a job that pays more but is more stressful and involves longer hours versus a job that pays less but is less stressful and has more reasonable hours, then money can't buy happiness is actually potentially relevant. The extra money from the one job won't buy happiness directly. If you are too busy or stressed out to enjoy the stuff you can get with your extra money, then that extra money won't make you happier. The lower paid job might actually make you happier if it pays enough and you aren't as busy and stressed out. Though, of course, if the lower paid job legitimately doesn't pay enough, then that might cause more stress than the higher paying job. In that case, the higher paying job probably is the right choice. It just isn't always the right choice. You need to take everything into account instead of focusing purely on what will make me the most money. Story 2. I've read that money does make people happier, up to a point. Once you're comfortable, got your basic needs solidly looked after, and have enough for entertainment and fun, more money does not make you happier. So yeah, I agree with the statement in the sense that gobs and gobs of money won't make you happier, not in the kinda weaponized sense of money isn't necessary at all. Story 3. While true, money can buy comfort and security, which contributes to happiness. There was a study that showed that after like $80K a year or something, money had diminishing returns on the happiness it can provide and drops off a lot after like $120K. Story 4. When people say that money can't buy happiness, they imply that it won't solve all your problems. For example, money cannot bring back loved ones who have passed away, nor can it heal the emotional scars from feeling unloved by your parents. While I could provide many other examples, that might lead to a darker conversation. Additionally, money doesn't erase the pain and frustration of earning it unless you happen to win the lottery, which is highly unlikely. In essence, money cannot truly buy lasting happiness for most people. Answer: they imply that it won't solve all your problems. Well, that's a different statement, and if that's what they mean, they should say it. For example, money cannot bring back loved ones who have passed away, nor can it heal the emotional scars from feeling unloved by your parents. Money can certainly prevent a passing in many cases. It can ease a loved one's pain in a chronic illness, and it can allow a family to have a funeral without going into their own debt. It can pay for therapy to deal with that childhood trauma. Sure, it can't change everything, but that's not the statement in question. Story 5. This always sounded to me like the kind of thing someone would say to someone greedily chasing money, as in not trying to make ends meet, but trying to be rich or constantly pursuing more wealth than they already have. So, in that sense, it's true. If you already have your needs met and are miserable, more money isn't going to fix things. For the opposite end of things, people who are struggling financially, I'd say that money doesn't buy happiness, but lack of money definitely brings hardship, and when you've lived with hardship for a long time, the lack of hardship can definitely make you happy. Story 6. I was raised lower middle class. Never knew any different as a kid because I had everything I needed. Once I became an adult, the moment I knew money did indeed buy happiness was when I got the promotion that a few months later had me not worrying about the date that the autopay on my electric bill would come out of my checking account. That was freedom. That was happiness. I've since moved up in my career, changed careers, started a family, and now make multiple times more money than that time in life. I have nicer stuff, but am no happier than I was when I had that realization. Of course, I'm happy with my family, etc. But the point is, if I was worried about my bills, I wouldn't have started a family, and I'd be miserable still. So it's relative. Money made me happier once I made enough of it to not think about it daily. Since then, the rest is in brokerage accounts, my 401ks, and my saving accounts. I eat better meals when I go out, wear nicer clothes, have a few luxury items, and can pay for a nice haircut. But I'm still not happier than when I stopped worrying that Bank of America would charge me something like $25 for being too broke to pay my utilities. Story 7. It doesn't buy happiness, it just gives you the ability to live easier, making life easy to be happy, but that doesn't guarantee you will be loved, respected, or even cared for or admired just because you have money. Story 8. Anyone who says that has too much money and makes up their own problems. They don't know what it's like to struggle without money. Money might not be able to buy happiness, but it sure can buy things that can contribute to it. A house that isn't a shithole, a functioning car, education to expand your horizons, trips to explore the world, items you can only look at and wish to own, stability for yourself and your family, medicine because we live in the USA. If that buys my happiness, call me a shill because I'm so tired. Story 9. Then the person is too rich. Money can buy the feeling of being calm and not worrying about your bills. I am by no means poor nor rich, but not having to worry about food rent after paying my bills is something that I really appreciate. Not many have that safety net. Story 10. It can make your life easier and stress-free, and that can lead to happiness. At least happier than I would normally be. And it can buy healthcare, which, if you're ill, you're not likely going to be happy. If I had health and peace of mind, I'd be way happier than I am now. Story 11. Very individualistic. If someone gets happiness from a simple life and farming and growing animals, then all money will do is give them stability in feeding their families and animals. If someone only wants a party lifestyle and is happy with that, then money is something they need, or else they will suffocate without what it brings them. To each their own. Story 12. It can buy me comfort, but never happiness. Money can only bring me happiness if I'm already happy to begin with. If it's a burden and I'm miserable, I will just be comfortable and miserable, but not happy. Story 13. Money buys happiness up to a point. After a certain point, more money won't make up for a lack of happiness or meaning in your life. But yeah, I would be a lot happier if I had enough money to retire early and spend more time with my kids and wife. Story 14. It can buy a certain degree of happiness. It can buy you shelter, food, clothing, etc. Having these things in your life creates stability, which helps promote happiness. It can buy you doctors' apps, medications, therapy, etc. Having your health looked after helps promote happiness. It can buy luxuries and your wants, things you don't need, but having them will make you happier. But it can't buy true friendship, true love, a good home life, a good work life, etc., so it's not a miracle cure, just a tool to help where it can. Story 15. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy options. When you have less money, you have less options, and not just for wants, but for needs too. If healthier options for food are too expensive, poor nutrition can lead to health issues, forcing you to work even harder just to keep up. And hard work, good pay, unfortunately. When financial issues come alongside a low-paying job, limited education, or a weak support system, life becomes a cycle where options are less and less. Money buys the ability to break that cycle. It provides security. This could be physical well-being, mental health, or even living in a safer neighborhood. Stability isn't just a luxury, it's a right. Story 16. It's a cop-out. Yeah, it can't literally buy happiness, but it can lower my worry about finances, which would let me enjoy life more without feeling drained at the end of each day. It can buy things I enjoy. Story 17. Being broke can sure bring on some misery, though. But I would rather be broke and healthy than wealthy and sick. Money in and of itself does not create happiness. I believe we all have some cross to bear to train us in this life. That's the only way I know to reconcile all the pain and suffering. I don't have many answers, just my 2 cents. Story 18. It rubs me the wrong way because it implies happiness lies in shivering in the cold under a bridge while struggling to find enough to eat and never being allowed to think of anything other than how to survive until the end of the day. Rinse, repeat. Money tends to fix those problems, and when your life isn't a fight for survival, I'd say it's a lot happier. Personally, I like food and a home and cool things to do, like going places or having a computer that does a lot of cool things. Story 19. Should be changed to money can't guarantee happiness, then we could all stop arguing about it. Truth is, being rich comes with its own problems, and since rich people are still people, the money doesn't mean that the standard human problems go away. Story 20. Bullshit. I never had the slightest shot at my dream because my parents were rich. Not angry at my parents about it, they did the best they can and I'm thankful for it. But money stopped me achieving my dreams. And now at 20 I heard from pros that my only way of being in motorsports is through becoming a billionaire. Story 21. Money can't buy happiness. But used correctly, it can buy food for your family, a house, car, all the insurance that goes with it, education for kids, and can be used on vacations to make memories. But when you spend money rather than your time, that's when it doesn't bring happiness. It's also what you teach your kids. I'm an advocate for not spoiling kids and teaching them to appreciate things. Story 22. I would absolutely be happier in life if I had more money. Only rich people or people who have never had to worry about money before say that. To people that have actually struggled with poverty, money would change their life. Story 23. Money should be looked at like food or any other necessities. If you're starving, you're miserable, but that doesn't mean having stockpiles of food will make you happy. Money is the same way. If you have enough to live, you have the amount that will make you happy. Edit. A lot of people will probably think this is ridiculous, but I also see rich people the same way I see other gluttons. Continuing the food analogy, if you see a morbidly obese person hoarding food, taking it from hungry people, living life only in pursuit of more food, you don't see happiness. You see someone with problems, a glutton. You certainly don't look up to them. I see money the same way. Story 24. I had a college buddy from India who was very wealthy, and I'll never forget what he said. Money can't buy happiness, but it's a hell of a down payment. Wherever you are, Shubhendu, your words have stuck with me for the last 20 years. Story 25. When I was young, I had a t-shirt that said, "If you don't think money can buy happiness, you don't know where to shop." Lowell laughing at my own 20-year-old philosophy on life, many years later I feel much different. My kids, my pets, my friends, and my job are what keep me happy and fulfilled. Story 26. Whoever said it is poor or mentally ill. The phrase is a coping platitude to delude you from those exploiting you for wealth. I was poor before. I was homeless before. I was middle class before. I am wealthy now. I am much happier than at any other time in my 50 years. Story 27. It's true, but you do need money to be able to live comfortably, eat, etc., which is still a requirement for happiness. Here's an example. As a furry, I'd be extremely happy to become my fursona. Such a thing, unfortunately, can't be obtained even if you had unlimited money. We simply don't have any of the required resources to achieve such transformation, and not sure we'd have it one day. As such, there's at least one thing that would make me happy that I wouldn't be able to get, no matter how much money I had. Story 28. Things money can buy, a place to stay. I will include electricity and such with that. Food to eat, liquids to drink, health, doctors, dentists, therapists, etc. Education, transportation, and those are just basic necessities. There's of course hobbies and special interests that require money to be a part of, e.g. seeing movies, going to concerts and conventions and such. That all require money. Now, yes, the whole premise of money can't buy happiness mostly refers to the memories and connections you make with other people being free. But we currently live in a capitalist hellscape, where you and/or someone in your circle needs money to create those memories. So, I'd say yes. In the system we live in right now, money most certainly can buy happiness. Story 29. It doesn't buy happiness, that's why there are plenty of miserable, wealthy people. It buys convenience and luxuries that eliminate a lot of very real stressors around basic psychological needs and safety and security, i.e., the two bottom rungs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It doesn't get you any closer to love and belonging, or self-esteem, or eventually self-actualization. It gets you closer than if you had no money, but money alone can get you all the way there. Not even close. Story 30. It is a true statement, but money can facilitate things that do bring happiness, like vacations with loved ones, needed medical support for Grams, putting Pat through the college of their choice, and so on. If you think of what makes you happy, money can facilitate environments to cultivate those happy seeds. Story 31. It is only true starting at a certain point. When you have enough money to live your happiest life, getting more money will not make you happier. But if you're currently working multiple jobs and barely making ends meet, if they do meet, then more money will absolutely make you happier. Story 32. Money cannot buy happiness. We grew up very poor, but we had a lot of fun. Good school, good family, good church. From being poor, I learned a huge number of diverse skills, two best of which are how to solve problems and how to learn difficult things on my own. I became a decent musician and made a lot of money. I found someone I adored. My wife and I built the perfect life. Big house, new cars, boat, cruises, trips abroad, tons of quality time together. One day, she just burned it all down. Love is happiness, but when one person decides it's over, there's nothing you can do or buy to repair that. Damage to yourself. Money can't buy happiness. Story 33. It's true to some extent. If I remember correctly, there was a study done that figured out $120K a month. Is the golden number, anything over that, didn't increase happiness. In my personal opinion, money can't buy purpose. If you have a purpose and you come into money, it's great. You can fulfill your dreams. If you have money before you have purpose, it will be really hard to find it. It's like playing a game that's halfway done. I know a lot of my good friends that come from affluent families that have no ambition. When everything gets handed to you on a silver platter, they lose their meaning. Story 34. I think there is truth to it, but it's not the whole truth. Money can prevent one of the biggest sources of unhappiness. When you don't have to worry about money, it's definitely a lot easier to be happy. Money can 100 buy temporary happiness. You can obviously buy substances, for example. You can buy your favorite things. You can feel temporary power. But money can't buy real lasting happiness. In fact, it absolutely can be an obstacle to that past a certain point of wealth. Story 35. I think it gets misconstrued. Yes, having money gets you away from the unhappiness, stress that comes with not having enough. But money itself only goes so far. I remember hearing of a study a while ago that measured happiness in relation to income. It basically found that happiness significantly increases with salary en lieu up until a certain point, which was around $80K a year or so at the time it was conducted. I'm sure that number is much higher now. At that point, it stops making as much of a difference. Your friends, family, surroundings, activities, outlook, and day-to-day lifestyle become the things that determine happiness more than your bank account does. There are truly miserable millionaires out there, and there are genuinely happy folks making a 5-figure salary. Elon Musk is the richest guy on the planet and got caught giving himself validation on a burner account. Does that sound like something a happy person does? Story 36. It's not true if you're already happy. Some say that money is an amplifier. So if you're happy enough, money buys happiness. If you're sad enough, you can be like Robin Williams, famous, rich, beloved by the masses, by family, friends, etc., and you off yourself. But even then, money kind of reduces sadness for some. When the janitor offs himself, his wife and kids can't figure out how to afford the funeral. When the rich guy does, his wife and kids are sad, sure, but I mean they just wave their hand and everything that sucks is done. Better to cry in bed than homeless. Story 37. I agree with it. People now popularly argue against it in terms of, like, having more money improves my standards of living. This is a very privileged statement. They have some truth. A better way to make the money can't buy happiness quote is, if you were miserable before you moved into a nice neighborhood, you'll still be miserable when you get there. Story 38. I do IT for the ultra-rich in LA and can say that money can't buy full and self-actualizing happiness, but it does bring you the happiness of no debt, always having extra income to do fun things, never worrying about medical issues, and always being able to take care of your family and friends. But if you are a fundamentally unhappy person, a miserable person, a bitter person, or a bored person, it will not solve those. Because once you have the basics met, you still gotta grow into a self-actualized person, which money won't help you if you're just a person who doesn't want to grow or change. Positively. Story 39. I think it would be more accurate to say money doesn't buy happiness for everyone. Depends what's missing in your life. There are countless examples of people with boatloads of money who weren't happy. But I'd imagine there are people content with themselves and their family and love life, etc., who struggle financially. And that's the final missing piece of the puzzle for them. Story 40. AFAIK studies show diminishing returns after a certain level of wealth. I can say personally, as someone with lifelong chronic debilitating depression, that I'm just as unhappy now that I can afford almost whatever I want without having to work as I was when I was broke. On the plus side, I can afford to try more treatments, so maybe someday something will fix me. Story 41. Of course it can. If I buy my kid a candy or my woman a gift, won't either of them be happy? If I treat myself or someone else treats me to my favorite meal, I would be happy. Money can't buy happiness is something the rich say to appease the poor, so they will be content with having less. Money quite often does buy happiness, as that is defined by what is happening at the time. Will it buy lasting joy? That depends on what it is used for, such as paying for someone's life-saving medicine or medical procedure that they could have never afforded, or something similar. Story 42. Capitalist propaganda. I remember clearly making a reasonable living for like 20 years. When I needed or wanted some food or like a chair, I could buy it. Then Skynet took my job, and now I just lie in a pile of dirty clothes, surrounded by the lack of shoot I desperately need but can't replace, even cheap shoot. Just taking as much sleeping pills as possible to F you to my passing since I ain't got the guts to do it myself. So yeah, I say capitalist propaganda. Story 43. I always think of it like this. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it buys freedom, which can translate to happiness. Imagine not having to be at work every day, but choosing to work if you want to. Spending time on things you enjoy with your family, providing food security and education for your kids, care for yourself and parents in old age. Nothing can replace that feeling. Happiness is freedom, and money can provide that. Story 44. Can't remember where I read this, but there was a survey done that mapped out how people felt about different things and rated it on a scale. It showed the happiest or most satisfied with their situation, probably about the closest we could chart happiness, were people who made around 70 kish a year. Now, I read this probably a decade ago, so it's probably higher now, but it makes sense. It's enough money to afford a decent house, a decent car, bills are paid monthly, your kids can do extracurricular stuff, and you have the ability to take a decent vacation every year. The key to happiness appears to be a middle-class life. Story 45. I knew a stripper called Happiness once. In all honesty, nothing really gets you away from that which you walk around with. Most presume their unhappiness is material, but that's usually not the case, having seen rags to riches, and the emotional flash event that can occur when they realize it was the lack of funds, it was the lack of feeling that was hurting them. But they can afford the therapy by then, so it definitely gets them there faster if they can get there at all. Story 46. Almost every single problem I have that causes any amount of stress leading to being unhappy is a direct result of not having enough money. I can promise with enough money I'd be happy. Anyone who isn't happy with all their money can give it to me, and I'll be ecstatic. Story 47. Happiness can't be bought, but things that help supply happiness certainly can. Side note, have you seen those life-sized Evolution plushes? If I were rich, or those weren't 500 apiece, I'd probably get 2 of each. Story 48. I see it as a warning to people who are well off, already not happy, that chasing more money is not the answer. In that context, I believe it is true. I do not see it as a way of telling struggling people that they wouldn't be happier if they were no longer struggling. Story 49. I think people take the literal meaning and not the spirit of the saying. I'd be happy with 10,000. Sure, you'd have a lot less stress in your life now, but your new life brings new complications. Some better, some worse. The saying just means the things that really improve your life don't cost money. They cost time and devotion. Story 50. Money can buy you opportunity to have better health, better ability to prevent problems with health, and buy you healing by giving you access to proper, needed medicine, treatment, and therapies. Health is wealth. I get the saying, but feel it's dated. Money can buy you many freedoms and opportunities to get well, be well, and stay well. This saying kinda gives privilege vibes.